Welcome to week 6 of BS311 Organizational Behavior. This is the spring 2014 quarter. I'm your online instructor, Diana Block. And so this week, this is our hump week. We're halfway there now. This is our middle week of the quarter. And we're going to read chapters 11 and 12. Chapters 11 and 12, we're going to start talking about the topics of leadership. So the first item we have here in chapter 6 is our discussion. So you are going to participate in discussion this week, as every week. And the discussion this week is talking about a well-known leader. Might be well-known for some people. For some people that are not sports fanatics, it may not be well-known. But in any case, you can read about him easily online by searching Phil Jackson and find out more about him and his leadership style. But it talks about whether or not leadership skills are transferable, whether leaders are actually born or made based on the industry that they're in. So you're going to talk about leadership in your discussion. Then we do have an assignment. And we have an assignment on page 314 that relates to chapter 11. So make sure that when you complete that assignment on page 314, that you are applying the information that you learned in chapter 11 to the article. You're going to discuss this company called CPI and how their leadership is adapting to changes within the firm. And so that's on page 314. But remember to go to the very end of the chapter, which in this case is on page 316, and look through the chapter summary and key terms, and make sure that you're using some of this information in your responses to the article questions. One question in particular that I want to point out regarding CPI is how they've adapted their approaches. Which one was it? Oh, okay. Yeah, here we go. It says in question 3, see leader-member exchange theory in the chapter, in parentheses at the end of the question. So I actually want you to look up that concept in the chapter and discuss how that concept specifically relates to this particular question. And that is really what you should be doing on all the questions. You should be finding what specific concept from the chapter relates to the information that you read about in the chapter. So on page 316, it continues to 317 is where you see the chapter summary and key terms that you should be using to describe your answers to the questions. So then the second part of the assignment is on page 341 and 342, and this of course relates to chapter 12. So after you've completed your chapter 12 reading, you'll want to go to page 341, and it's the Can You Solve This Manager's Problem related to the Levi Strauss Company. It starts here on page 341 and continues at the very top of 342. And again, you're going to answer questions about leadership. The information that was given in the article is about Robert Haas, as at one time he was the leader of that company. And this particular article asks, again, specific questions. I'm going to point out question 3 of the case. Do you think he was a charismatic, considerate, or structured leader? And so in the reading, you will have learned in between chapters 11 and 12, you will have learned about charismatic leaders, considerate leaders, or structured leaders, and what that means in organizational theory. So you'll be selecting one of those based on the information given to you in the article, but you're going to actually apply what those terms mean from the chapter to what you read. And so for that and for all of the 3 questions based on that case for chapter 12, you're going to make sure you go through these chapter summaries and key terms and determine which of these concepts from the reading applies to the article that you read. So again, just like every week, you're going to apply what you've read in the chapters to the article. You should be using terminology, concepts, theories from the reading to describe um, the article questions. There are some additional learning resources here that are very good. This TED Talks video about how great leaders inspire action is very good. There's practice quizzes for the next test, which will be next week in week 7 is when we'll have our next quiz. You can also take a test to see what your leadership style is. Oh, here's the article about Phil Jackson. So you can learn more about Phil Jackson, which is the topic of our discussion this week, by viewing this, reading that information. So lots of great additional learning resources here. And I want to remind you that the movie analysis paper is coming up now in 2 weeks. Week 8, you're going to do the movie analysis paper. If by chance you have not gotten a hold of one of the movies on the pre-approved list, I strongly urge you to take care of that this week. The reason I've reminded you about it this week, or every week I've reminded you about the movie analysis paper, is because it is a large assignment. It's twice the number of points um, as your weekly assignments are. So it's a very heavy assignment. The late policy applies to it the same as any other assignment. If you don't turn it in on time that week, you'll only have till Wednesday. So I hate for anyone to lose points on such a large assignment because they waited till the last minute to get one of the videos, or didn't get one of the videos at all. And these are movies are readily available. They're old. They're not like new videos where you'll have to pay $20 for them or anything like that. They're all older videos, and available, new or used, very cheap in several places, or possibly free at the library. So I've reminded you about this every week for the last 6 weeks just because it's really important. Also, I want to mention later, um, approximately week 10, or you'll have to check the syllabus, but you'll also have an organizational analysis paper. So now wouldn't be a bad time to start thinking about what organization you're going to write about. So considering all the things that we've studied so far, we've studied group dynamics. This week we'll study leadership. We've studied personality, and other concepts about organizational behavior. So, what is an organization that you're familiar with, that you know about some of the personalities, the groups, the teams, the leaders within that organization? Because you're going to write in that organizational analysis paper, you're going to write about these course concepts as they relate to that particular firm. So you definitely want to have a firm that you're familiar with, or an organization that you are familiar with. Some students want to take some firm they don't know anything about and then research it. Um, and the kind of information that you find researching a company online is when they went public, and um, how they're doing financially, and all that's great information, but that's not what this class is. So this class is about behaviors within the organization. Most of the time, to know about behaviors within the organization, you will have to have been there, to have been a witness to how they behave within a particular organization, or know someone that's within that organization so that you're very familiar with it. It's possible through news articles, maybe to piece together some of the behaviors in an organization that you're not at all familiar with. But most likely, the best way to do this organizational analysis paper is to use an organization that you've been a part of, or that you know very intimately, because I'm not looking for just a general overview research paper of an organization. I'm looking for you to analyze the behaviors as we've studied them in class that relate to that organization. So just keep that in mind for the organizational analysis paper that's coming up in week 10. But the very next paper first is going to be the movie analysis. And in the movie analysis, let me remind you, you're going to be doing the same thing. You're not going to be giving a review of the movie. You're not going to just be discussing whether you liked it or whether it was funny. You're going to discuss organizational behaviors that we've studied, class terminology and concepts and theories that you see demonstrated in the film. This is why I selected particular films, because the organization is the central character in all of the movies that I've pre-selected. So rather than a movie about a person, I want a movie about an organization so that you can see how um, the behaviors are demonstrated in that particular organization. So that's what we're doing this week. You've got a regular discussion, regular assignment this week. Read about this article about Phil Jackson, and we will prepare ourselves for those upcoming papers by getting the movie, determining what organization you're going to write about, etc. But we still got a little bit of time on those other papers yet. So if you have any questions, my information is still in the instructor area, and I look forward to talking with you in the discussion this week.